Hey guys, Pastor Darvin here from Mission Lakewood Church. We're finishing up at our devotions today. We're finishing up the book of 3rd John. It's one of the two shortest books of the entire Bible. And we took a look at the first half in our last devotion. Now today we're going to take a look at the second and last half of 3rd John. Now what we said last time is that this little book is all about how to be a good contributing member of the church, the community of faith, the community of God's people. And here's the thing you got to understand, is that the minute you become a believer in Jesus, you are a part of the church. Even if you decide you don't really want a lot to do with a specific church, you are a part of the church. So if you decide not to get, involved in a church, you're just being an uncontributing, negative member of the church globally. We all who believe in Jesus are a part of the church. So the question becomes, how are we supposed to be a positive contributing member instead of a negative or non-contributing member of the church? Now the first half of 3rd John, John used the example of a guy named Gaius to say, hey, look, Gaius is a positive contributing member of the church, of the community of faith, of the community of God's people. Here's 5 things that he's doing. And those 5 things were: he had a healthy soul, he walked faithfully in the truth, he had good deeds, he loved others, and he showed hospitality. Now John's going to flip the coin and he's going to look at a negative example. He's writing about a negative example, someone who is a destructive, non-contributing member to the church and to the faith community, the people of God. And this guy's name is Diotrephes. I mean, really, how would you like to be named that? But then also, how would you like forever for Scripture to record that you are a negative, destructive, non-contributing member to the church? Yeah, kind of rough for old Diotrephes, but here we go. Here's his negative example. If you want to know how to be a negative, non-contributing, destructive member of the church, here's 4 ways to do that. Here we go. Verse 9 of 3rd John. I wrote to the church, so we can assume that actually John wrote some letters to Diotrephes before saying, hey, we're coming through town, help us out. Hey, this person's coming through town. They're going to they're on their way to this other city to plant a church there, help them out. And Diotrephes didn't. So now John is writing this letter again to really speak out against Diotrephes and what he's doing. I wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to be first, will not welcome us. So, first thing, if you want to be a negative, non-contributing member to the church, you got to work against the good authority of church leaders. Now, John was the authority, and he was such a good church leader. At this time, he had started a whole network of churches, we believe, and by this time, he was the only living disciple of Jesus, so those 12 disciples left alive. So he is a good authority, right? You're supposed to honor good church authority within the community of faith. Instead, Diotrephes wasn't doing that. He was working against John. He had said no to the things John had previously written to him. John just said, I wrote to the church. Diotrephes disagreed. He didn't do what I said, right? He's working against good church authority. Diotrephes, who loves to be first, right? He loves to be first. And this is actually, often within church and faith communities, when you see fights and whatnot, arguments, conflicts, you want to make sure that you're not trying to put yourself above other people and always be first. But that's what Diotrephes was all about. He had that pride where he just couldn't follow good church authority. So when I come, verse 10, I will call attention to what he's doing, spreading malicious nonsense about us. So if you want to be a negative, non-contributing member of the church, first, work against the good authority of church leaders. He continues in verse 10, John continues saying, not satisfied with that, he even refuses to welcome other believers. So, number 2 is, don't show hospitality to people. Don't show hospitality to people, right? If you want to be a negative, non-contributing member of the church, don't show hospitality. Don't have people over. Don't have people over to your home within the church. Don't eat dinner with other people. Don't get to know other people. No, don't show that hospitality. Keep people at an arm's length. Diotrephes here, he was not allowing other people outside. Now you got to remember, at this time, churches Our church doesn't have a church building, but a lot of churches today have church buildings. It wasn't the case in this day. They met in homes. Diotrephes was probably a leader of a house church of maybe about 30 people that met in his home. And so he wasn't welcoming other believers into that group. He wanted to hold on to it. He wanted to be number one. He wanted to be first. And he wasn't showing hospitality and love to others. So if you want to be a negative, non-contributing member of the church, make sure you don't show hospitality to others. Don't go out of your way to love others. Don't go out of your way to get to know other people. Don't go out of your way to make sure you eat meals with them and get to know them. Don't show hospitality. John keeps going. He says this, he also stops those who want to do so, who want to welcome others, and puts them out of the church. Now, here's what's going on. If you don't want to be a contributing member of the church, if you want to be a destructive member of the global church, you got to work against the mission of the church. Here's how this is working against the mission of the church. John says, he stops those who want to do so and puts them out of the church. Okay, so a lot of the church work and mission of the church at this time was to grow, and it was to send new church plants off to other cities, or evangelists, people who go for the first time and tell people about Jesus in another city or town. Of course, they didn't have like Southwest Airlines to hop between cities, and so if you were in one town and you wanted to go like the next country over and start a church or plant a church, and this church sent you out, what you need to do is in all the towns between here and where you were going to plant, you were going to be walking on foot. I mean, it would take weeks to travel there. And there wasn't a lot of resources. There weren't a lot of resources to go around. So when you got to maybe you're going to this city, but you live down here. Well, when you get to the next town and you need to stay the night, you go there and you find that house church, the group of Christians there. And you go, hey, I'm on my way to plant this church. Can you guys give me a place to stay and give me some food? And that church was obligated by the mission of Jesus to say yes to you. And then you go to the next church, to the next town, and the next church, and the next church. And what John is saying is you have, particularly in the first half of this book, he said, he was telling people, like, you have an obligation. You do not get to not show those people hospitality. You must take them in, give them a place to stay, and give them food on their way. That's how you're going to contribute to the mission of God that's being accomplished through that person by going and starting this new church over here. You're helping them along their journey. And you probably should send them out with some money to help them when they get going to start a church there too. Okay? And Diotrephes wasn't doing that. In fact, you get this picture. John says he stops all those who want to do so and puts them out of the church. So you get the picture that Diotrephes, he's so self-centered and selfish and prideful that when one of those church planters comes to that town, not only does he not take them in, and he's obviously got a nice household if the church is meeting there, not only does he not take them in and give them food, he goes to his church members and say, oh, you can't take that person in either. And so he's actually stopping the mission of God from happening. And we can do this today too, right? We can get so prideful and arrogant and self-centered that we actually accidentally or purposefully do things to prevent the mission of God from happening. We don't give as we should. We don't help and serve in our church or volunteer in with poverty in our city like we should. We get in the way. We just get in the way. So if you want to be a destructive, non-contributing member of the church, number 3, make sure that you work against the mission of the church. And then number 4, he says this, dear friend, so he's still talking to Diotrephes, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. Anyone who does what is good is from God. Anyone who does what is evil has not seen God. Okay? Don't do evil, do good. Really simple, right? Like do good. If you go back to the positive example in the beginning half, the first half of 3 John, you saw that the third thing that Gaius was doing right was that he was doing good. It says in verse 5, you are doing good for the brothers and sisters, even when they're strangers to you. And now John is saying to Diotrephes, the negative example, hey, anyone who does good is from God. Anyone who does evil has not seen God. Hey, if you're not trying to do good, we all make mistakes. None of us are perfect, but if you're not even trying to do good, then you're doing evil. You're actually working against the ways of God. Now, those are the 4 things, and now John's he's gonna wrap it up on a more positive note, right? He doesn't want to end on that negative, so he ends the letter like this, starting in verse 12. Demetrius, so now he's going to end with a third example, but it's a real short one, right? So Gaius was the positive example of the first half. Diotrephes was the negative example in the second half, but now in the end, he's going to end with another very short positive example. Demetrius is well spoken of by everyone. He's got a great reputation for being a person of love and hospitality and mission, and even by the truth itself. We also speak well of him, and you know that our testimony is true. I have much to write to you, but I do not want to do so with pen and ink. I hope to see you soon, and we will talk face to face. Peace to you. The friends here send their greetings. Greet the friends there by name. So that ends this book of 3 John. He's just saying, hey, hoping to see you. And, keep in mind this other positive example of Demetrius. Kind of live like Gaius and Demetrius. Don't be like Diotrephes, right? Because if you want to be, this is the whole point of it, be a contributing member. Be a good, no matter if you don't get to not be part of the church if you're a Christian, even if you've checked out of church, even if you go like once a month. No, guess what? You are a part of the church. The question is, are you going to be a positive contributing part of the church or a negative, destructive, or absent, uncontributing factor in your local church? And John gives us this positive example of Gaius, another positive example of Demetrius, but today we looked at this negative example of Diotrephes. And if you do want to be that negative example, this is what he gives you. So here are 4 things to avoid if you do want to be a positive, contributing person in the church. These are 4 things you want to avoid. You want to avoid working against the good authority of church leaders. You want to avoid not showing hospitality. You want to avoid working against the mission of the church. And you want to avoid doing evil. So there it is, the book of 3 John. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a really simple, nice little book, really practical, good examples, and I hope you got something out of it. Thank you for watching these and being with us. God bless.